Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me today. I am Jim Coppinger with ZenTek Consultants, and I welcome you guys to our presentation today on customizing Bluebeam Revu for the work that you do. In other words, talking about how to best customize and use the Bluebeam tools functionality. So before we get into today's class, just a couple of quick housekeeping items. Because this is a public presentation, I do keep all this attendees' microphones and telephones muted throughout. But if you guys take a look at your go-to control panel, you see there is a question box and a chat box there. And I've allotted time at the end of the presentation here today to answer any questions that you guys have. So as we go through the presentation today, just type your questions in either of those venues, and I will be happy to read them out at the end of the class and get you all the info that you guys need, okay? All right, so with that said, I'm just going to go through a couple of quick slides here. Again, for those of you who have not had a chance to work with us before, we appreciate you taking the time today. We are ZenTek Consultants, and we work all across the AEC world. We are kind of recognized all across North America at this point as the premier Bluebeam experts for all things workflow development and tools process related. And we do quite a lot more. We are CAD and design and estimating and construction project management experts. So I hope you guys will hit our website, see all the other cool things we have to offer for you. All right, so today what we're going to be talking about is the idea of taking Bluebeam, right? That ubiquitous program that we all have. Everybody has Bluebeam. It's on our desktops. We use it every day. It's something like 85% of the construction industry uses it. Something like 76% of the engineering and architecture community uses it. It's one of the most used platforms in the world. And every day I get on the phone and I talk to people, and I'm always amazed when they just look at me and they say, Jim, you know, I use Bluebeam. I know the basics of Bluebeam, but I know that this tool can do so much more. I'm just not sure where to start or how to get there. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today, right? We want to talk about Bluebeam tool sets, right? And being able to build and put together your own reusable custom tools and processes and calculations and formulas so that when you're doing, whether it's markups or, you know, quantity takeoff and estimating in Bluebeam, you're getting the data that you need the way that you need to do it, right? And I'm going to kind of show you some basic tools, right? How to add a tool set, how to add tools to a tool set, some of the very common functions that go into it. And it's going to be pretty basic, right? And that's the key to this, right? Bluebeam is a simple tool to use, and everything we're going to talk about, you guys are all capable of doing on your own. I will say, and you can see up here on the screen, I've got, you know, a little call out here for our Zen Estimate and our ZenTek Revu tools. Those are more developed, more advanced systems, right? And I'll show you that. This isn't a sales pitch. We're not trying to sell you our Zen Estimate tools or whatnot here, but I will show you those today just to kind of give you an idea of the scope, the capacity that Bluebeam has for you to really, whether you do it on your own or you do it in conjunction with ZenTek, to build an absolutely powerhouse of functionality and configuration that'll make your life a lot easier. All right, so with that said, it is demo time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over here to Bluebeam. Right, and here in Bluebeam Revu, right, what I've got is just a blank page, right? And I've got my toolbar up on the side. I got my properties open over here. And this is the kind of stuff that we all wind up creating and recreating and copying from one PDF to another, or manually having to create note after note or call outs or whatever the feature or function may be, right? And everything we're going to talk about in this presentation today, it doesn't matter, like I said, if you are doing markups, right? You know, as-built markups, you know, submittals, or if you're doing full, you know, quantity takeoffs, full estimating, the concepts are going to be the same. You can build just about any kind of tools that you need and want to be able to reuse, and you can distribute them throughout your whole company from a central location so that on every single page of every single job forever, you're getting the same consistent results. Right? And that's what I want to talk about. So first thing I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take you through very quickly how do we create tool chests. It's real easy. We're just going to go into the tool chest and we're just going to go to manage tool sets. Right? And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to add a new tool chest. And by default, it's going to save it into the local Bluebeam installation directory. But I can actually go out and I can use this button over here to browse and change that out. So if you want to put it out, like I said, on a central network location, and then everybody just points to it and loads the files from there, you absolutely can do that. So for today, I'm just going to call it our, we'll call it our demo tools. Okay, I'm just going to call it that and just say okay, right, and save it out there. All right, now you can see that what it's done, it's created a blank empty tool set over here on my side, right? there's no tools in it, but I have a holding location for the tools I want to create. And these are kind of some just very quick example tools that I put up here that we can use, things that we wind up creating all the time inside of Bluebeam, right? Rather than just having one location, we can just point and click and drop them onto our PDFs. So the first one is very simple. It's a general note. And all I've done here is just created a general note, right? Where I have, a standard text box. Right? I went in over here and I kind of adjusted the, the properties and how I wanted it to look and what font, right? And it's the kind of thing where, we just want to be able to add notes. And maybe we want our notes to always be green and bold so that they really pop on the PDF. And then I can change the note after I place it. It's not a problem. I can just go ahead, pick that, and add that to the tool chest with a simple right click. I'm going to add that to my demo tool set. Okay, and there it is. Now over here, right, you see that to start with, it kind of gives me a little icon. Not a fan of that. Because when you get too many tools, it becomes very, very busy. If you go here to the gear icon, you can switch it into detail mode, and you see it gives you the actual name, right, and what it says here. So you see it's a text box and a general note. Then whenever I want to use that tool, I can just click it and drop it in here, okay, and then modify it as I need. So it's very easy. That concept of being able to add tools works for just about anything. Same thing here. Here I have a call out note, right, and a call out note, that's the kind of thing that you can move the note around. Right, you can point to specific items and locations on your plan. Right, you can kind of set this up and configure it any way you want. And again, I just put this one just so it has kind of a different note. Right, maybe this is something for major problems and issues, big important things. We want it to be in red and bold so it really stands out. So all I've done is I just created a basic call out using the standard markup tools up here. Just created a call out, right, and set my display properties. Set the font I wanted, whether the color of the text, all of the basic display properties I've set over here. Very easy to do. Same thing, I can take any object that I create, I'm just going to right click on it and add that, right, into my demo tool set. And there you go. Now you see that call out note is over here. So now when I go in and bring that in, I can easily bring that note in and modify it. We're going to actually use these in just a few minutes. All right, so those are very basic things, right? And most people who use Bluebeam regularly kind of know how to do that. They get those basic tools. But then I want to get into using more functional tools. So here what I've got here is I created just a little orange call out with a hatch pattern on it and a cloud bubble. All right, and I'm going to call this my as-built region. You see I've already given it this subject name. I called it an as-built region, set its display properties. All right, a lot of times when we're doing as-builts on a plan, we have to kind of highlight them so we can show people where they are. Right, and that's the kind of thing that I don't want to have to go back and set these properties 110 times on 110 jobs. I'd rather just have it be consistent every time. So I can just go in here, right? And I'm going to go add to tool chest, demo tools. You're kind of getting a vibe, right? It's a very, very simple thing to do, right? I've got a basic area of concern, right? Maybe I've got a tool that I want to just be able to drop a symbol on there and say, here's an issue or problem, and I want to be able to resize it and make it bigger or smaller. So I basically just have, a little text box there where the text is going to adjust itself to the size. Same thing, right? I've set the subject, I've set all my displays. Just going to go ahead and add that to my tool chest. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to throw a couple other ones on here. See this one, what I have here is just a basic symbol. Right. But you notice that there's this little lightning bolt on it. One of the things that you can do with Bluebeam tools, which I think is really underutilized, is that you can attach hyperlinked items to the tool. Okay. You can just go in and you can right click and edit the action. You can create a connection, right, to some other file or another link or another place or a location. And what I've done here is I've actually linked this to a PDF, right? And I just grabbed one called our submittal. So whenever I want to do a submittal item, right, I'm going to put that symbol on the page. And then when people click on this, and I'll just show you how it works here before I add it to the tool set, they click on it, you see it's automatically going to open up my submittals form so they can actually fill out the submittals, right? And this can be any PDF, any form. I just grabbed one that I had handy, right? And same thing. All we're doing with all of these is we're just adding them to our tool chest. Okay, right, everything gets added up in there. Right, then we're going to go in here and we can start to add other items. Right, we can get in here into quantity takeoff and estimating. Okay, right, and with quantity takeoff and estimating, we can take any item. So what I have here is a measured item. Right, it's actually a poly length. Right, that I have built. Right, it's a poly length. See, it's in my HVAC subject. So it'll be in my HVAC industry group for takeoff. I put an actual size on it. It's a 12-inch spiral duct, okay? And I can go ahead and I'm going to add this to the tool chest as well. It's just a basic linear measurement. So I'm just throwing all of these. And I did the same thing down here with an area call out. And I'm just going to add that to the tool chest, to my demo tool. So there it is. I just took all of those tools, and I could have done them all at once. I just kind of want to talk about what they were. And I've created a tool chest. It's pretty straightforward. And you can create as many tool chests as you need to sort and organize these, so you can have, you know, an HVAC tool chest and a you know, carpentry tool chest and a millwork tool chest and a Windows tool chest, whatever you need, right? So kind of what I wanted to show you here is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go to this floor plan, right? And we're going to start using some of these items, right? Just to show you how this works. So you see now I've gone to a completely different PDF, right? I don't need to keep the other one open. I could close that out, right? And now I can just go in and start using these tools and say, look, I need to add a note. So I just put my note on here. Now I can just double click on the note here and I can just change it, right? And type whatever I need to, right? There you go. And if that's not big enough, so I can just resize it. If I need a single line, move it wherever I want it. So it's easy to add notes. Call outs, same thing, right? Maybe I want to go in and say, hey, you know what? We need to, you know, move this beam here, right? I can just go in and now I can just double click this and just say, move this beam. You see, the key here is that there's no connection, right? Once they're placed, the modifications I make here on screen, right? They don't in any way impact the tools over here. See that still comes in as a call out note. This still comes as a general note. Once they're placed in your Bluebeam PDFs, you're getting the data and the information that you need, right? As-built region. So if I go in now, here's the thing. So I have this as-built region, which isn't terrible, right? I can just go in and kind of, you know, place this in, right? And then I can just kind of resize it as I need it in this kind of rectangular shape because I built it as a rectangle. But one of the things that's actually nice, you're going to see, and this is going to be particularly important when we get down to like the HVAC and the carpet, right? Is that with a lot of these tools, we have the ability, and you can see that's set to highlight so you can see behind it. So if this is the area that we wanted people to look at, right? We can just call that out and say, hey, that's, you know, that's where we did an as-built. There's a change in there, okay? But a lot of these tools, right, when we get into them, and I'll just jump down here to this one, the spiral duct. So you see, if I want to go in, I start doing an estimate. I go in here and you say I bring it in. That's not really particularly useful to get, you know, a 10-foot long section of duct. Doesn't really give me a lot. But what's great here with Bluebeam is I can just right click on here, and there are two modes: drawing mode, which is the default, and properties mode. Right? And when you're doing takeoff items, you switch this easily into properties mode. And you see that now I can just click here. Now instead of it coming in, now you see it's rerunning the polylength tool, but it's maintaining all the properties from my original item. So when I want to go in and say, look, I'm going to run a duct, and it's going to run from here to here to here to here. See, I'm running my duct all across. There it is. There's my spiral duct, right? Running throughout my whole system. And I can go back in and modify and update this and do all the basic things I can do. Same thing with it with a carpet, right? If I go in and I click on it, you see it's coming in as that pre-size, same size what I created. But if I go in here and I switch that into properties mode, now I can go in and I can actually go in and I can start to draw the carpet and say, look, I'm going to put that ugly purple carpet that I have into this room. You see, I can just go in and I can sketch it out here to here, right? And I can, you know, double click it to end the, for some reason my mouth isn't double clicking here. I don't know what happened. Didn't like what I was doing. So that's all right. We'll just go here and up there, and there we go. There we go. Don't know what happened there on that first one. It wasn't going, but you see that there's my purple carpet, okay, with it set up, right? And as I go in and I modify it, and I can change this and add additional bends and areas, right? Change these to whatever I need, right? I can go in, and if I do have rectangular spaces, like, you know, maybe there's a, you know, a rectangle over here, we're going to do in like this center hall, a strip of ugly purple carpet going down there. I can easily do that. Right? So, and you see that it's giving me the actual measurements, the lengths, and the cubic square footage and so on of all of these, right? So this is a basic concept of tools. Very, very easy to work with and create these items from Bluebeam setups. Now, the key with this is now adding intelligence. It's one thing to get these on screen, but what's more important is what we want to do is we want to be able to go down here, and you can see right away, I've got some built-in standard Bluebeam columns, right, that are turned on here, right? You see if I go to my standard Bluebeam columns, these are all the built-in ones, right? You see that I've got the basic subject, label, measurement, and comments turned on. The comments lets me read the note on what that is down here. Say it says move this beam, right? On that note, it gives it to me down here. So if I want to export these out to a CSV or so on, no problem at all, right? And I've got the measurement column, which is giving me, right, when I've got a count object, it's counting it, right? When I got, square footage, it's counting it, linear foot, right? It's giving me the correct unit of measure for whatever the object is. But what I want to show you guys where you can really start to get involved here, right, is that we can go down to the columns and we can manage the columns. And what we can do is we can start to build our own custom columns. And this is the real power behind Bluebeam customization. All right, and like I said, this is probably, it's got to be at least 60% of what we do here at ZenTek, is helping companies from general contractors, some of the world's largest building product manufacturers, to put together tool sets that they can use for their entire catalog of products and takeoff needs. And we do it, right, by adding these custom columns. And there's a lot that you can do in here. I'm just going to show you some very basic ones today. What I really want you guys to take away from today's presentation are the concepts of what you can do so that you can start having internal conversations to see, hey, is this something that we can do in-house, or are we just too busy? We want it, but let me call Jim over at ZenTek and see what they can do to get us, up to where we want to be. But I want you to start using your imagination here, right? So the first thing that I'm going to do here is say, look, let's say I want to do something very simple. I want to be able to go into any of these items like, my duct, right? And I need to calculate how much that is going to cost. So I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to add a basic number, okay? All right, and I'm just going to put in here and I'll just call it my unit price, okay? And you see that I can format these as currencies or percentages and whether or not I want to add them in totals, right? This is a line item cost, so I don't really need to. I can set default, minimum, maximum values. There's a lot that I can do in here. I'm just going to create a very basic unit price column, right? That's easy. And I see if I say, okay, you see that now there's a unit price I can add in, right? So if I want to go to a specific item, right, I can go down here and I'll go, let's click on the HVAC item, right? And I can easily go in and say, hey, per linear foot, right, we'll give it a create. It's going to cost us $25 a linear foot. Okay, so you say I can just put 25 in there, and I'm keeping track of the unit price. Okay, all right, so that's pretty nice, but not all that usable. Where it really starts to get important, right? I can go back to this manage columns feature. And under the custom columns, now I can add in formulas. Okay, so I can go in here, right? And I'm going to go in. I'm going to put my, material cost. Right? I can start to build formulas just like I would do in Excel. So I'm going to same thing. I'm going to format that as a currency, right? And I'm going to put in an expression. And basically what I'm going to do, I can take and I can multiply. I can do any kind of mathematical operation on any type of numbers-based column. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take whatever is in the measurement column. And you say just hit M and I can choose the measurement. So that's this column over here. You see where it's giving me the 483 foot 3. I'm going to choose the measurement column, and then I'm going to use the multiplication sign, right, the asterisk, and I'm going to multiply that by my unit price. And you see that even my custom columns, as long as they're numbers based, can be used in my formula. So I can just go and say, hey, multiply that by the unit price. And I want to format that as currency. And I say, okay, and okay. And you can see right there, it's doing the math. It says, okay, here's our HVAC. I've got a 12-inch spiral duct that was already built into the tool, okay? And I've got everything I need. Right? It's 483 feet 3 inches multiplied by 25. It's going to cost me $12,082. Now, what's great about this, I want you to kind of keep your you know what I'm going to do here? I'm going to delete everything just to keep this clean, right? Show you how this kind of works in conjunction with a tool, right? That I can just go in, I'm going to add my duct, and I'll keep it simple. I'm going to put a simple piece of duct that goes from here to here, over to here to start, right? And again, now you see it's coming in with no material cost until I go in and say, hey, it's going to be $32 a linear foot. Right now, that's 88 feet 2 inches. There's my cost. But here's what's great about working with Bluebeam is that now when I go in and I modify this duct, watch the prices in real time. All I have to do is adjust. If I need to go in here and put in a bend, right? I can do things like that. I can add bend points and switch things and add curves and arcs and all of the controls that I need graphically on my PDF. And in the meantime, all my prices, everything down here, my material cost is being calculated. And I can continue on and do others, right? So if I want to go in here and say, look, I'm going to do another one up here, it's a different length, okay? Right? But it's still going to cost, right, $32. And you see that what it's doing here is it's doing the calculation based on the line item. This one is 214 feet, costs $6,000. This is 253 feet, it's going to cost $8,000. Total, $14,982. all the math, everything you're doing here is already being done in real time, okay? All right, which is absolutely amazing, right? So, and then from there, obviously I can go ahead and just push this out to a straight up CSV, okay? And you see that it'll just push it out to Excel where all my materials, all my pricing, everything is here. So I can even, if I really want to, I can even get into advanced level quantity linking where it'll update the Excel files in real time, and we can hook you guys up with that too. One other column that I kind of want to show you here that you can kind of build and customize, again, just to kind of give you the idea. And we can build dozens, hundreds of columns if that's what you need to get all your stuff. So you can put everything in here in terms of, you know, profit and taxes and labor costs and material costs. And, you know, we can do math to say, hey, you know what, how many hangers do I need, right? If I need to go in and put in a formula that says, hey, take the length, divide it, we need a hanger every 30 inches. I can divide that out and tell you exactly, you know, how many hangers do you need, you know, to suspend that from the, you know, the decking above. Whatever it is you need, it can be worked in here and built. Right? Again, it's about, like I said, adding a little bit of imagination. And I'm going to go in and show you one more thing here. I'm just going to go back into managing the columns. Right? And I'm going to go to my custom columns. And I'm going to add one more kind of column that I'm a real big fan of, which is the idea of a choice column. Right? And it's a drop-down list. Right? So let's say, you know, going beyond quantity takeoff and estimating and thinking in terms of, you know, whether it be, you know, a punch list, or you're assigning commitment items, or, you know, there's some kind of an error issue on site. I'm gonna go in here, I'm just gonna create a column here called, you know, responsible party, right? Who's responsible for whatever item I'm creating here in Bluebeam? And I can just go in and I can add a drop-down list. Right? And you see that I can easily go in and say, look, maybe the GC is gonna be responsible for some things, right? And then maybe, you know, the owner going to be responsible for some things, right? Maybe, you know, the individual trade will be responsible, and you can put names and lists, whatever you want in here. It doesn't matter. You know, maybe this is something that's the vendor's going to be taken care of, right? Or you can even go in here and put in, you know, somebody else, right? Somebody other, okay? And I can just go ahead and say okay and okay. And you see now I have a responsible party column. So when I go to into an item and say who's doing this, that is going to be handled by the trade. But this particular piece is going to be handled by the GC. Maybe it's in an existing space, right? Or, you know, it has to be refurbished or whatever it may be. Right? And the great thing is that that drop-down set, it can be tied to specific items. So if you think about that in terms of, you know, handling things like, you know, insulation and depths and controls and wattages and different options and finishes, whatever type of work you do, this is what you can do, right? In working with these Bluebeam tools. And I'm just going to kind of give you guys a better idea. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch to a different profile. I just been using kind of a standard Bluebeam profile. I want you guys to understand the scope of what we can do here, right? So as an example, I'm just going to go into our basic Zen estimate steel, right, which is our structural steel quantity takeoff estimating. I'm just going to set that as my current profile. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a new PDF, right? Just a standard 36 by 24. Right, and I don't really care what you know, I'll set my, just go over here to my tools. And what I want you guys to look at, I'm just going to minimize that. You can see all the tool sets that we have in here, right? And you start to see that we've built into this, right, all of the different sizes, right? So if you're dealing with W shapes, so you've got all your standard sizes built in here and all the weights, right? And what's most important about this is that I can go in here and say, look, I'm going to throw in, you know, a W18 column. Right? And again, I'm just kind of randomly throwing them from, you know, here to here to here. Right? It's counting how many of those there are, but more importantly, right, what it's really doing here, you see that everything's already built. It's a W18 in a column condition. There are 3 of them, right? If I had spaces enabled on the plan, it would be reading the spaces. Right? But most importantly, everything else that I can do in here, what do I need to know? What's the size of the weight? What's the size? Is it an 18 by 35, a 40, a 46? If I can go and say, hey, that's a 106. Right? And you see that it starts down here. It's recalculating the weight based on the size that I choose. Right? See that the weight, the total poundage for that member is being updated. Right? I can go in and I can add in, I can change the height of that column. Right? These are 12-foot columns. Okay? What's the condition adjustment? Do I need to add like additional setups because they're bigger? Right? Or excuse me, and going into higher setups, right? I'm going to add a, you know, hey, we're working 18 stories up. We're going to add in a 25% upcharge for that. Okay, I can put in the base cost for the materials here, right? I can go in and add in, have it calculate out the total cost, right? Anything that I need, I can just easily go in here and modify all these, either down here on the bottom or even over here on the side, right? So if I want to go in and start adding in and changing my base cost, right? It's $125 a pound or whatever it may be. I can easily do that, okay? Right? I can go in and calculate beam surfaces and conditions, right? You see I can calculate the surface for the beam, right? And the weight, and for sheets, poundage, connection percentages, total tonnage. I can choose finishes, right? And I can even apply, if I wanted to, I could apply additional costs for each different finish and price per ton. I can add in my labor rates, estimated hours, crew rates. Again, not really trying to, push our Zen Estimate stuff at you, which is great. We've got Zen Estimate Steel and Zen Estimate HVAC, but to show you that, the Zen Estimate Steel tools, for example, have, I think, over 4,000 individual pieces and components with 20 or 30 different columns of custom data that you can apply to do your takeoffs. I think our Zen Estimate HVAC has over 7,000. But this is the scope of what you can do and accomplish. You can build tools in Bluebeam Revu that are going to meet all of your markup and quantity takeoff needs. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. All right. So I think that gives you a good overview, a good idea. Like I said, I'm always surprised by how many folks just don't realize that those simple features are available to you inside of Bluebeam. All right. So with that said, I'm going to take a couple minutes here. I did get a couple of questions in here, and if you guys are thinking of any, please feel free to type them in. I got a question in from Gregory. So can I add default values for things like labor and taxes, et cetera? Yeah, absolutely. Any numbers-based value, Gregory, you can go in and you have the option to set whatever your default is. So if you want to add like a profit line or a tax rate that's standard for your community or where you're doing the work, you can absolutely do that, and then still change it later on if you need to. Got a question from Paulette. If I have a list of existing symbols, can ZenTek build them for me as tools in Revu, and can I give it to everyone in my company? Yeah, this is what I was saying before, Paulette. We actually specialize in that. We've done review tools and built tool sets for some of the largest BPMs in the world, companies that you guys know, recognize, and work with every day, like Lutron and Advanced Drainage Systems and Bosch International. And if you go on their website, see a lot of them are actually, they'll give you their Bluebeam tools for their catalogs. We built those with thousands and thousands of items, right? Everything from like small 50 set tools all the way up to 50,000. And for most of the folks on this call, I think you guys are probably a small to mid-sized GCs and trade contractors. We even have a Bluebeam Revu Tools Kickstart program on our website to help you get started, right? For whatever your specific needs are. I got a question from Courtney. Is there a metric and an imperial steel tool set? Actually, yes. What's happening right now is that the release 21, we have the imperial out, and we're hoping that the metric should be out here in another month. We're hoping. Earlier versions of it had the metric, but we ran a little bit behind on putting out the metric version of it, Courtney. But yes, we can provide both imperial and metric structures for you. Okay, so hopefully the metric one for the current version will be out very shortly. But if you've got an older version of Revu, we do have the older imperial set, or excuse me, the older metric setups for that. Okay. All right, and it looks like that's all the questions that I got. So hopefully I didn't bore you. Hopefully I explained things well enough. You didn't have too many more questions. So, all right, with that said, like I said, nothing here that you guys can't do yourself. But if you'd like to talk to us about how you can get a customized set, how you can, build tools and more, there are a lot of additional processes, and I went over it at a very, very high level today. But if you're just looking at Bluebeam and you've got specific methodologies and workflows and documentation needs and output needs that are, important to you, I guarantee you we can help. So all our contact information is up there on screen. Reach out to us, shoot us an email at sales@zentekconsultants.net. Other than that, thank you guys for taking the time today. Hope you all have a wonderful day.